about home. They're married to real estate.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast for people who love real estate and want to become inspired and informed. Whether you are a newbie real estate agent looking to get tips and learn a thing or two, or maybe you are a savvy property owner who wants to get a jump on the market, this is the place for you. We discuss our passion for real estate and people. We bring together our personal experiences as well as our guests to learn from each other. You'll hear from experts in sales coaching, real estate law, mortgage lending, investing, and many local business owners on how to grow your business or your investment in real estate. I'm Mary Forrester.
I'm Mary McCauley.
And I'm Mary Elliot.
And we are
Married to Real Estate.
Oh, good morning. Good morning, everybody. This is Mary Forrester this morning, and we are in our 11th episode of Married to Real Estate. And the three Marys usually have this confab with a very special guest, but today, unfortunately, Mary McCauley was called away, and she could not avoid being apart from us today. So it's Mary, Elliot, and I.
Yep, holding down the fort,
and with a very, very special guest, whom I will introduce just very shortly. Okay. But the way we typically begin is we ask each other how our week has been, or since our last podcast. So. Mary.
Well, I find myself a chair of several new subcommittees on my town committee now. We just doled out sort of all of the subcommittee leaders in our meeting last night, and I was like, yes.
Ask a busy woman.
And so here I am, like about to change the face of an entire town single-handedly. So that's pretty exciting. I'm putting a lot of my time and focus into that right now. And I had spoken to you guys about a potential with a new builder in town, and things are progressing there. So that also putting together a pretty dynamic presentation for him. All of my stuff right now is paperwork and road mapping things. Yeah.
Excellent. And your son was accepted at...
Oh, yes. My son got into Middlebury College, early decision this last weekend.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, he's so relieved to just know that he's going to a place, and what place that is. You know, he had a choice of a lot of great schools. He's a great kid, and they all wanted him, and he honed in on this one, and he's thrilled that they accepted him.
Excellent. Well, congratulations. A special school.
Yeah, lots of flannels in our future out there in Vermont.
A lot of cold weather. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Nothing like Arkansas, though. It's the opposite, really.
We'll find out, won't we?
I think so.
Well, my week has been just awesome. I've been able to help connect people with the realtors, people coming in from California and coming in from North Carolina. And I don't have any recent ones in which I'm referring out, but I typically find realtors for people moving out of this area or anywhere. And so that's so much fun to help people. And it has been a great week. It's amazing, just amazing. We'll have a chance to talk about attitude later, and a lot of change in attitude. So. Anyway, today our guest is a personal friend, a friend whom I feel a little disadvantaged about because I've known this special woman as a special woman. And not as a pioneer or a person of first so much.
Right.
So Mary and I have agreed we're going to make sure we cover every single part of Dr. Mamie Parker. And Mamie, we're so happy to have you here today, and it's such a treat to see you. I met Mamie maybe 10 years ago, Mamie. Was it when you, an artist, joined the Rotary Club?
So, Mary, it was couple years before you joined.
Oh, so that was a long time ago.
So we're probably headed toward 15 years.
15 years, wow. 15 years, wow.
Yes.
So I know Mamie from her unbelievable soul and unbelievable presence. I knew she was way a mucky muck way up in some government agency. I knew that. And now I know that she is a person of firsts.
Yeah.
And-
Like from the very beginning of her life.
Yeah.
That last child, but first one to do all sorts of amazing things.
Your siblings went on to school and as well, Mamie?
Actually, being the last one, I followed in several of their footsteps.
Excellent.
Actually, one of my sisters in the small town that we grew up in, Arkansas, my sister Jewel, became my fourth grade teacher. And she lived with us too, so it was very interesting, as you can imagine.
Oh,
when
wow.
you talk about real estate, what happened when we were home in the evening. So, but yes, my siblings did really, really well. I have military officers. I have MBAs. I have, there were 5 boys and 5 girls.
Wow.
And so I broke the tie. So they did pretty good, really, really, really well.
That's awesome.
So for our listeners, Mamie comes from Arkansas-Mississippi border, basically, right? Wilmot, Arkansas.
Wilmot, Arkansas is in the Mississippi Delta, Mary, and it's 4 miles from Louisiana. So,
Louisiana, okay.
Yeah, so our school, the school that we started in elementary school, was almost on the border, but we had as many cousins in Louisiana as we did in Arkansas. Wow. And then we were on the Mississippi River across from Greenville, Mississippi. So
exactly.
Tri-state.
Exactly.
One of the poorest regions in this country now.
Yeah.
And it has always been that way.
Yes. And so your mom was a sharecropper. What did that necessarily mean? Did she have her own farm, or they farmed a piece of somebody else's farm?
Yeah, so it's amazing. You're talking about first, and I'm sure that there were not very many women in the 1940s, 50s that actually farmed their own land. But with all those children, people always wonder, why would someone have all those children? But a farmer with a lot of children, you would say, don't judge me, right?
Right. Yeah. Right.
So my mother sharecropped. So you rent the property from the landowner, and then you plant the cotton, which is what she did, and then you use your children to harvest it, and then your proceeds you use, most of which went back to the landowner. It was not a very good system back in those days. But she was willing to take a try at that. Later on, she stopped farming and became a maid in my hometown of Wilmot, Arkansas.
Wow. So it's kind of eking out an existence as a sharecropper, it sounds like.
Yeah.
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 Wow. And then you went on to Pine Bluff to school? Did you go to Arkansas, University of Arkansas in Pine Bluff? Yeah.
Yes, I did. But before that, I tell the story about hearing Marvin Gaye's song, Mercy, Mercy Me.
Yes.
Things are not like they used to be. And he said, what happened to those blue skies? And then he said, radiation in our air. And he said, mercury in the fish that we eat. And so talking to my high school biology teacher, he challenged me to say, well, what do you want to do about this? Because every week on Wednesdays, we talk current events and so he challenged us to do something about it. Well, I had no role models, of course. There were no women out doing environmental work or trying to stop pollution or, just trying really hard to save Mother Earth.
Yeah.
But it was great to have someone like him to inspire me. So I went to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, and I had a choice to, you declare your major back then before you had a lot of career training. And so I was standing in line, and the guy in front of me was going to be studying political science, and the girl behind me was going to study biology. I chose biology because I had a crush on that teacher.
That's fabulous.
Whatever it takes.
Hey, it did the trick. It did the trick.
Wow.
But he had a profound, I would say, really influenced me to study biology, and because he made it so interesting and fun. But I had been fishing with my mother
Right.
all those years, and really, I tell people all of the time that they talk about nature for all. Nature saved me because a large percentage of the girls in my ninth grade class, they were pregnant in the ninth grade.
Yes.
And, so childhood pregnancies, my life could have been totally different, but I was saved because I was outside. And
Yeah, that's amazing. And it was time with your mother too, right? Like from what I read, it's, you learned to fish from her and do all of these sort of activities that she was modeling for you. And and sort of said, well, that's somebody that I want to follow and emulate, right? That like she inspired that out of you.
Yes, it's amazing because, she certainly did. And she also really didn't want me to have the same life that she had.
Sure. Yeah.
So I tell people, had I not been fishing, I would have been kissing.
Everybody go buy your daughters a fishing rod.
Nature saves us, right?
Yeah.
Right? No, my mother did instill in me a lot of values. I can remember, and just learning to trust her judgment and listen to a lot of the things that she said on the banks of Mighty Bartholomew. I remember seeing a bird, and she was the first to say, watch it. And she said, and think like a bird. And she said, lift and grow your wings on the way down.
Wow.
She said, leap and grow your wings on the way down.
Wisdom.
She nature. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you went on to the university, and at the university you studied biology and fell in love with the biology teacher, and and then from there you said you were recruited to at least go up to Wisconsin, which of course is 1,000 miles away, quite a distance, right?
Yeah.
And north.
Head north to Wisconsin, and a lot of differences, but a lot of similarities, because again, on the banks of the Mississippi River, just a different river, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the same river, but different people and a different scenery there. But went to Wisconsin in an internship program. And, that was my first opportunity to be introduced to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Great group of people, great opportunity to learn.
A great mission, right?
Great mission.
Great mission.
But here's the deal. This was my first time ever. Speaking of real estate, I think I want to just say this was my first time ever having my first place to myself. And that experience in itself, I remember my boss saying, he found the place and he said, do you have security deposit? You're going to have to put some down. I said, what is that? Because while we were poor, we owned our house. So we didn't even have a mortgage. So I had no idea what he meant by security deposit.
Yeah.
And, but he loaned me, I think it was $163.10 for the security deposit and some money until my paycheck came 2 weeks later.
Wow.
So that was my first real estate.
Yeah.
Was my little apartment, a little efficiency apartment in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
You got to start somewhere. It's that's lovely.
And that was the year. I think now about yes. I could have said no because it's cold there. And all of that, but that's what I encourage young people to do, and many other folks that are listeners and your other fellow realtors is, you say no because of fear, it will paralyze us, right? So
I think that's something we all realtors and humans in general struggle with on a daily basis is the yes versus the no. The no can feel so much more comforting, right? Like, oof, dodge that bullet. Don't have to do that scary thing. But it's the yeses to those scary things that really bring about personal growth and growth in your community. And then when you see the benefits of that yes that you said yes to, it can become so much more rewarding. And you would,
Exactly.
stop yourself from experiencing that growth with a simple no, which is,
Right.
I really do on a daily basis have that conversation with myself. Should I do this? Should I call this person or not call that person? Oh, it might be scary. Haven't talked to that person for a little while. But almost every single time that I push through, I'm rewarded with something, maybe not that I was expecting, but with something else, a beautiful conversation, or I learned something about that person that I didn't before. Maybe it wasn't my ultimate goal, but there's always an experience to be gained out of a yes. Rather
Out of
than
a yes. Yeah, and Shonda Rhimes, who did Grey's Anatomy and Scandal, she has a
Right.
book, The Year of the Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's right.
strongly encourage people to read that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Good idea. Yeah.
So, Mamie, going to Wisconsin from Arkansas, it sounds like, the kind of, okay, there are normal adjustments, but you were a minority at the school, I imagine, that there were a lot of differences. I read a quote that when you look around, you didn't see many people like yourself. And how did you feel? Did you feel safe? Did you feel challenged? Did you feel like I have enough support behind me? How was that big change?
So I tell you, if you think about Little House on the Prairie and Wagon Train, some of you all are as old as I am, and you know those television shows.
I do.
I do too. I do too.
It's all about pioneers, right?
Right.
And what I noticed about pioneers, many pioneers are lonesome people. And so the first thing that comes to mind when I think about that experience is how isolated it was, how lonesome I was, and now as I've gotten older and understand it, how frustrated I was. But I masked a lot in that environment because I knew that the chance that I had been given as a woman, as well as a Black woman, that if I didn't get it right, many other women behind me and Black boys and girls would not have gotten that chance to. So I felt all of that. I felt, just it was horrible. But I also have to tell you about my story about integrating my third grade class, integrating a school in Southern Arkansas.
Yeah.
When I started school, it was all Blacks went to one school, all whites went to another school. And it wasn't by choice. People talk about, choice.
Yeah.
But when my mother decided that she was going to send me, they really wanted my sister because she was a lot smarter than me. But my mother says, that one, she'll talk her way out of anything. I tell my mama, today I look at her picture and I say, but I make a lot of money talking now.
That's right.
But sending me to that school was really hard. And I can remember days and days where the kids were encouraged not to talk to me because in our town, you didn't socialize with white people. Right. Black people stayed on their side and white. So I would see people in the store that I went to school with, and they weren't allowed to even say hi to me or anything. But one day in particular, I remember, and I was sniffing because I had a cold, and little Paula Spurlock came up to me, and she gave me a piece of gum. And she said, here, chew this. It always makes me feel better. Oh. And I said, well, I'm not feeling bad. And she said, yes, you are, because you're crying. And I said, well, I'm just sniffing. But I was sad because I was lonesome. I had nobody. Can you imagine going to recess, third grade, nobody playing with you and talking to you? Mm-hmm. So Paula said to me, little blonde, blue-eyed Paula said, I'm going to change that because my mommy says I'm a leader.
All right.
I'm going to play with you. And when I play with you, I'm going to get Donna to play with you and June to play with you. And we're going to change this. So, what I see now and read about allyship, I just think it is so powerful. And one of the things that I'll have to say is I met a lot of little Paulas along the way.
Oh,
like
that's so beautiful.
Like you, Mary, and Virginia. I just have so many little Paulas that came along, even in Wisconsin. that helped change my life.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm still getting goosebumps from that story. That's beautiful. Like I love Paula, and what a girl. And I love Paula's mom for teaching her that too, and being, just the leader that she was, and not being afraid to be the difference maker there. And what a girl, and what a story, and how what we always say on this show, the ripple effect is so powerful. Had Paula not made you feel included, then you might not have, put yourself out for some of these other bigger opportunities that would have been, feel a very isolating feeling,
Exactly. Yeah. So I got to Wisconsin, and there were people like Joan Dagenhart and Paul Slaughter, and they were there to kind of guide me. I can remember the first time I saw a lot of houses out on this water, and I was like, what are those people doing out there? I'd never seen that before. And he said, those are ice houses. They're so again, real estate on the water.
On the water. So you went on over a 30-year career to be a lot of firsts within fisheries and wildlife.
Incredible, yeah.
And the assistant director or assistant of the agency. You were chief of staff for a while. You've received numerous awards. What I was so touched by was in the NPR interview was that when the janitors saw you, and thought that you were one of them, and that they had never seen anybody like them inside one of the offices that they cleaned. And that was so touching. And I can see it. I can see it right now, and I'm sorry to say I saw it a lot in my career as well.
Yeah.
Not for me, but I observed it in others for sure. Yeah. And it was very, very touching. But you have, in your career, you have done so much. You have received so many awards. You're on the national boards of so many organizations. And yet, it seems to me that your mission is still to change people, to expand our awareness. One of the programs that I saw on LinkedIn, maybe about a year ago, Mamie, was you were working to help people be comfortable in the outdoors.
Yes. Yeah.
And that made so much sense from everything that we got exposed to with Black Lives Matter, people being afraid to leave their homes, let alone be outdoors. So how are you doing that? Are you still involved in that activity? And how does that play out now?
Yeah, so I'm on the board of directors of the National Wildlife Federation, and we were looking for things that we could do to really find those barriers. So our barriers analysis indicated that people were afraid of the outdoors. Shortly after Christian Cooper and his experience in the park in Central Park in New York. So some of those things, and then again reflecting on our own lives and determining what does it mean to create a safe place in the outdoors. So I gave experiences where I was outside as a field biologist, in whether it was Wisconsin, Minnesota, Missouri, Georgia, Massachusetts, all those places I lived. And ladies, I had a lot of realtors, as you can imagine. Those places, and they were real. I mean, if you look up the definition of real, it's what you're all about. You can imagine it's all about being unique and really being over the top. And that's what I found with the realtors in my life. But this we did a series of webinars to talk about this and peel back the onions. Being outside, I was called the N-word. I was asked why was I there. People thought I was there to steal. The myths of Black people steal from you. I got the looks that you don't belong. Just many other things that happened to me. But I also went back to my childhood and went back to many of the children now in urban communities. And when we go outside, it's amazing what I've heard the difference. My friends would tell their kids, the white kids, have fun when they would go outside.
Yeah.
When my family told me that I could go outside, they said, be careful.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do we create an environment where we all feel safe
Yeah.
whether we're black, white, or whatever in the outdoors. And so that webinar really focused on what are those barriers. One had us a lot to do with our childhood
Yeah.
experiences. A lot of people are afraid of the outdoors because they think that birds are bad for them, that some bugs are bad. So, getting them outside so they could understand that nature is such a great way to explore, yourselves, learn science and all of that.
Yeah.
But also remembering those traumatic experiences. My mother said, be careful, because in the rural South and the Mississippi Delta, you would see men hanging from a tree every now and then that were outside, so that was why you had to be careful.
Yes.
Women, of course, women have to be careful because, we're women outside and with men with guns.
Yeah.
But we really wanted to focus on those barriers and then look for ways in which to improve upon them. So we took all those ideas and recommendations, and now the National Wildlife Federation, they're working to see how they can look at one of them at a time and just check off ways in which to make it better off the list.
That's incredible. The foundational stuff, I think, is so important. It's those little things when you're a child. It's just like within any number of cultures, we all have those little things we say to our kids, either be careful or have a great time, is a great example of it. And that is where all the difference can be made. It's in our children so early. So, in Paula too, same thing. Her mother was a groundbreaker and said, be a leader, or you are a leader, instead of, there, honey, nobody wants to hear a little girl talk, and that those are foundational. And it grew up to make this all happen, because the challenge of being different is scary, but when you step into it, there's a lot of light on the other side.
And
Lots of light.
Yeah. And you have a daughter now. You just had sons for a while. Do you see a difference in terms of how you parent?
Yes.
She's a guardian for a teen, right? She's a teen.
She's now 13. Yeah, we got her just before she turned 11. And I do. There's a lot of things that little off the cuff things that she says about insecurities that my boys would never have said. Never crossed their minds. Or at least that I was aware of, they weren't thinking about. So I definitely do. And it's always about building self-confidence. And, I actually do genuinely believe that she would turn out to be a great superior Supreme Court justice. So, I keep telling her that and, that she's a born leader and she has all the will inside herself. And actually, the quote that we're going to talk about later, I think applies greatly to raising children. You choose the attitude, and it's a freedom that you have to do so. And that's something I try and instill in her, is we have the mental wherewithal to sort of frame our experience here.
We talk a lot about fear in different groups that I'm in, and at the core, I think also we're so exposed to media right now. We're so exposed to stories. We needed to be more exposed to lynchings. We swept that certainly under the rug, and so much else. But I remember as a kid, I was raised in in Watertown, which is just a suburb of Boston, blue collar kind of suburb when I was raised there, and it was all ethnic communities, and we were immigrants. My family were immigrants from Canada, poor people, and we were told, don't you dare bring this one home, and don't you dare bring that one home. What? Where was that all coming from?
Yeah. Fear.
Lots of fear.
Yeah. The fear of the unknown, and just assuming that something other is dangerous or scary or potentially, a threat. It's unfortunate, and that's the deprogramming that needs to continue to go on and get deeper throughout this country and the world, really.
In the world.
Yeah.
And I really struggle with this one, because there was a time when I would say, overcome your fears and get over it. Fear is false evidence appearing real. But over time, I've come to realize that let's embrace it. Just say, I'm scared, but I'm going to do this anyway, right? I'm afraid, but if I don't move, nothing changes unless something moves, right?
Yes.
That's one of my favorite quotes.
Love that.
Yes,
Nothing
me too.
changes unless something moves. And so I can see why we have fear. We see crime on, in our neighborhoods. One of the best lessons that I had was, walking downtown Chicago, and then walking in the south side of Chicago with my cousin Marcus, Claudine, and Claudette, and I had fear because what I saw was some boys with their pants on the ground, down. I saw the music loud, and of course I was coming from a different place,
Right.
and what I had seen on TV is what I knew. And so I was like, let's just get out as soon as I could. That's what I wanted to do, was to, flee that. And some things are legitimate in terms of what we need to fear. However, we have to look and see, this is not the majority of groups that are doing these things, whether or not men are fearful of women coming in and changing the culture of their workplace and all of that. There might be, and there are some bad, influence in our society, in our workplaces, and all of that. And I say, let's acknowledge it, but let's not let it stop us from moving forward.
Right.
So I'm sure, Mary, that when you were told don't bring this one in or that one in, it's because your parents or someone in your house had seen something that individuals do. And it's sad, but that's why the weight of a pioneer is so heavy, because we have to be the ones that are the ambassadors. That's why those janitors at that building was so proud, because they saw one that they could lift up.
Right.
And,
Right.
lift as we climb. And so we have that responsibility. That's a burden, but we still have that responsibility to make people feel good in our presence.
And then they, in turn, I'm sure, went home to their children and their daughters especially and said, can't believe who I saw working at this place today, not alongside us, but in the actual, the business world of it. And that inspired those children to who knows what, I love that so much. It's such a powerful message. That's what we're here to do in the world, is show the next generation that it can be better for them. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching the Winter Olympics, and the young lady from China, she talked about, well, she's from the U.S., of course, right?
Right.
And she's, what's her name? I can't remember her name.
I just read something about her this morning.
Yeah, but she said that too. She said, I could have done that in America. They get to see many girls like me doing great things, but the little Chinese girls would benefit a lot more by seeing my picture, seeing me really being able to break some boundaries. And that's what we're doing, not just glass ceilings.
Right.
I'm telling you, as you can imagine, me walking into doing a briefing at the executive office of the White House, that's breaking, and talking about fish.
And you ran fish for New England too. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Where did you live?
I was over in Hadley, and the Hadley Valley.
Oh.
And then we had a house over on the Connecticut River in South Hadley, right on the water.
Wow.
Mount Holyoke College.
Yes.
So I absolutely loved it, and couldn't think of a better place to start my executive career as a senior executive service person than in New England. It covered Maine all the way down to West Virginia.
Awesome.
Wow. Yeah.
Awesome.
We love this area too. So.
And Mairi is in Groton, which is a beautiful town. This real estate office and this cable TV office is in Westford, another beautiful town. I loved living in Northern Virginia for many, many years, Mamie, but I love living here.
Yeah. And I will say, there must have been a time that you did probably have, maybe not you personally, but your department had something to do with what was going on in Groton, because there was a huge watershed cleanup in the 80s, I want to say, mid 80s, 90s in Groton on the Nashua River. And it went from being unswimmable when I was a child to my children swim in it today. in just, that short, I think it was probably 20, 30 years that it went from that direction. And, that was certainly influenced by your work, and people facilitating it for us. And so thank you for that.
And I think that, Mary, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think sometimes one of the biggest challenges that we have in communicating what we do is how it values other things other than wildlife.
Right.
And again, a lot of us, they would look and say, well, why do we have to care about that fish?
Mm-hmm.
It's in the water, but now you're tying it into how it really enhances your recreational, profession. But also I tell people all of the time, if you think about the house that I live in now, it costs $50,000 more because there are trees behind it.
Yeah.
And how important it is for us to save trees and streams like the Nashua River, because they add value.
That's right.
There are some ecological services that they offer that are valuable to us as human beings. Yeah. And we need clean water. When we think about testing for COVID tests and all of that, they can't have dirty water. And if if the water is not swimmable, it's not going to be water that's really the kind of water you want to do your lab test in either. So we need, medical people need clean water, realtors need clean water, businesses need clean water, and so I'm hoping we can do a better job of actually telling that message so we all can protect nature.
You're so right. It's systemic. It's everything. I mean, we all need that system to be in tip-top shape, and you're 100% right. It affects everything out there.
So my guess is, Mamie, we could go on for another hour.
Yeah.
Easily another hour. But what we tend to do is there anything that you want to ask us? Is there anything that you want to say to us in terms of, how we can support what you do?
Right. Upcoming projects, things you're working on.
Yeah. So one of the things that I am working on is with the Gardens for Wildlife. And if you all can help us promote that program, it's really, really wonderful. As you think about your homes and beautiful surroundings, whether it's there in Westford or Groton or wherever you all are, the more you can find a small space for pollinators. And
awesome.
Pollinator gardens are what I'm really promoting nationwide.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We would love to.
Yes, and it's a little bit of land sometimes you have. I have a small patch in my backyard where I've planted some pollinator flowers. You have to have the native ones. But to be able to see a monarch butterfly stop by, they need that to survive, because they travel 1,400 miles from Canada all the way over to either Florida or California.
Yes.
And they need some resting spots like this. So but also we know we need pollinators for our watermelons, for our oranges, they're all there. So to encourage your clients to think about a little patch, and they can get it certified if they go online to the National Wildlife Federation.
We'd love to.
They can plant, lilac, they can plant cloves, they can also plant, some beautiful brown-eyed Susie, one of my favorite, sunflowers.
Sunflowers, right? Coneflowers, yes.
Coneflowers.
Yes.
And if you don't have, you got a condo, container gardens are just as wonderful for the hummingbirds and other pollinators.
That's a huge initiative that I think we could easily tie into, prepping people's houses to list, or a new buyer moves in, and what should I put in this garden space? Here's a pack of pollinator seeds native to your area, and get your garden going.
Great idea.
I'm going to do that.
I'm going to do that too. So Mamie, our house has 2.5 acres of grass.
Yeah.
Come on up. Yeah.
What is this you're showing us, though?
What do you have there,
So
Mamie?
I was saying, these are little pollinator things, and they're like you plant them in the ground, and they have seeds here, and so these are easy to give out too.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Something like this would be wonderful.
house gift.
A lollipop, right? But But Mary, I'll tell you about that land. Yeah, that is great. Maybe we could plant your little garden in
That sounds
Yeah.
great, maybe. That sounds
I do.
less to mow.
Yes, yes, tomorrow. That's another thing about it because they really maintain themselves once you
Yes.
get them started. So I'd love to come up.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
I've got
Come up and
I've
we'll
got
do a little garden.
2-ish acres too that I need to fill with something big because they're building houses off the back of my
And
land.
she has 2 goats.
I have 2 goats and 2 chickens, and I do have a bunch of pollinator gardens already. And my lilacs are my favorite. I have huge mature lilacs by the coop. But milkweed, is this a thing for pollinators? That's very big for the monarchs, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, milkweed, the main, one of the main food sources for
Yeah,
them.
so I think I'm
Okay.
planting
I can
planting a
do
bunch
that.
of milkweed in the back portion of my
I can do
my
that.
yard this year. Yeah.
Throw in some brown-eyed Susies. They are so beautiful and they grow so well. And you want some color there, so
Yeah.
that you get some and different species like different.
That's right.
things.
Yeah.
So, ladies, if you could do that, I think, and keep uplifting women. I just got invited to the Forbes magazine 30 over 50 summit, women's summit in Abu Dhabi. So I'll be there to meet
Oh.
50 other women that are over 50 like myself. But I feel like, and there will be 30 women over 30 that are there too.
Okay.
So this conference is an opportunity to promote sustainability for me and environmental justice.
Love
But for
That's
you,
wonderful.
keep lifting each other up. That's
you.
what you do for me.
Good.
Is-
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Excellent.
That's our plan. Yeah. And thank you so much. It's so wonderful to have your time and you here with us today. I really feel so honored to have gotten to meet you and talk to you. And I know my sister's going to be so jealous. She's got sustainability development masters, and that's what she spends her life doing out in California. So she's going to be like, why are you talking to her? I should be talking to her.
Well, I think we can end with the quote. We don't have to
Sure.
discuss it
Okay.
because I think it does fit. And it's the last of human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. And that's Viktor Frankl, who had survived this concentration camps. And so thank you so much,
Yeah.
Mamie.
Yeah.
You are just a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you for
Yes.
being an inspiration to choose a positive and non-daunted attitude every day and
Yeah.
just keep moving.
Thank you all for having me, and for what you're doing is wonderful. I think just getting the word out there is really, really nice. So my
Yeah.
pleasure.
Okay.
I'm just so impressed with you all too, and we have
And you didn't even
somewhere
meet
right
the
there.
other Mary, who is even as
She's
equally
she is,
expressive.
yeah.
Yes, that's right.
She is.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Okay.
all right.
Great.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.